Good morning, everyone. We are Luciana Della and Antonio Gagliano from ANGAR's Communication and Research team. First of all, we want to thank ISEA for having us. We also want to thank the people involved in making this possible. Today, we want to share with you the European project Arc-hive, which started on January 2021 and is going to finish by July 2022. So this means we are in the final phase of the project. In it, ANGAR is working together with several European institutions such as Kersnikova, Container, BioArt Society, Arbins, and Cultivamos Cultura, which is the leader of the project. These institutions have complementary profiles, working on NGOs, museum sectors, publishing, IT, and audiovisual fields. Arc-hive project seeks to create a platform in which to centralize and make accessible a variety of information, knowledge, and documentation on art with a focus on biomedia, ensuring open access to a variety of users and a wide outreach of digital materials across cultural sectors and territories, following the principles of open culture, open information sharing, and transparency. The project starts with an enormous challenge and seeks to engage artists, curators, teachers, students, researchers, cultural institutions, and scientific researchers with one central objective: to promote an ecosystem of valuable knowledge about this field that can grow autonomously in the future. But what are we talking about when we say artworks with a focus on biomedia? We are mainly talking about contemporary artworks that are based on biological medium and processes, employing living systems in their content and form. In other words, we are talking about practices and objects that, by the changing nature, resist being captured and catalogued. The platform is centralized on our website, archive.zone, which serves several needs. It has two main sections. On one hand, an index of artworks focusing on biomedia coming from different collections. As for how to technically structure the artworks with the index, we have worked with the premise of plasticity in mind. We have created a wide range of modules that allow the users to display a wide variety of formats and media types. The artworks can grow and expand as much as needed. On the other hand, the project seeks to employ and develop open source resources that can be replicated and adapted to other contexts, fostering the creation of new archives and collections. In this sense, a cornerstone objective of the project is contained in its own logo. The division of the word archive into two elements, mimicking the cellular phenomenon of mitosis. It metaphorically connects the biological replication process of a single cell with the endless replicating capacity of free code. It is about imagining possibilities of movement in structures that are usually represented in a rigid form, such as the sitemap we are seeing now on the screen, which describes the architecture of the platform as it is right now. These resources can include exhibitions, and sometimes analysis of said resources as a case study to collect and share best practices and digitization protocols. They can also include field workshop, lab workshops. Those images are from Field No Traces, field workshop that took place in Finland. Symposium. Those are from Life as an Object, a symposium held in Ljubljana a few months ago, as well as digitization protocols, podcasts, soundscapes, videos, and texts. This image is the artwork created for the final publication of the project, which is now on its way.
Archival practices have rarely explored how to cohesively build up and maintain open source digital infrastructures to host cultural objects that, by the very living nature of their components, are elusive and difficult to be digitally captured. The uninterrupted life cycles of mutation, degradation, and regeneration of artworks, predominantly based on biological materials, open up several questions around digitization and cataloging practices and protocols. Where, for instance, does the most important part of an artwork focus on living materials resides? Is it possible to locate and migrate that specific information in such a way that it can inhabit the digital field without becoming permanently distorted? Should we capture, for instance, all the stages of its life cycle, the beginning and the end, or just one of its phases? Should we correct or absorb the extraneous elements that emerge during the process of digitization? Should we assume that the utterly generic mathematical space of digital three-dimensionality always bring with it the obliteration of its specific surroundings? Even though many of these questions are also relevant to the digitizing and cataloging of other fields, such as dance or performance, that are also elusive to the archive because are also based on living media, the infrastructures for hosting works based on biomaterials underline in a special way the question of maintenance and care. It is problematic to define what kind of close ties need to be assumed to keep physical metabolic artworks alive, to understand how to lend them to other institutions, how to transport them and catalog them, how to acquire them and integrate them into museographic collections. And the development of a digital platform doesn't solve all those issues. It reinforces them. Digital does not make it easier. One of the conceptual forces driving Arc-hive is to reflect and explore how digitized living materials could be hosted on a network of federated servers that ultimately seek to generate an ecosystem of open source data and code. Thus, when we refer to living matter and ecosystems, we are not only talking about networks of life within the pieces itself, nor a vibrant community of specialized readers, but also to a multi-dimensional community of researchers, editors, and open source developers who will continue taking care of the infrastructural levels of the platform, generating new iteration of the code, getting behind the content, and expanding the tools and features we have already created. So, what can archival practices learn from engaging with digitized artworks focused on living materials? What performative effects do artworks focused on living materials produce on hard structures of knowledge, such as the collection or the archive? The encounters between the political background of open source communities and the specialized field of artistic practices working predominantly with biomedia opens up an infinite space of thought and conceptual articulation. These are, in any case, forms of institutional research that acquire existence in practice, as happens with artistic research in general. They exist as knowledge because they are made in the making and in alliance with the materials rather than before. It is almost impossible to think how diverse digital objects and heterogeneous collections can fluidly coexist within a platform before thinking about what open source web designs allow us to do. Establishing a set of curatorial criteria that organize the admittance of content to the platform enables not only the crafting of editorial statements, but also the imagining of administrative roles and design of a sustainable and accessible UX for platform contributors. It is in the reciprocal entanglement of discussion and technique applied to materials that a deeper understanding of how to take care of living things is finally produced. Thank you.